Nootropics are just supplements for the brain. Over the last 20 years, a lot of papers have come out about how students are using cognitive enhancers. Cognitive enhancers are being used by doctors, tech workers, and busy Wall Street executives. And they're handed out by the US Air Force, the French Air Force, the Indian Air Force, and something called the Canadian Space Agency. Militaries give them out so that their soldiers can stay energized. And they continue to gain popularity with their growth rate over 10% a year, with the hope being that people who take them can become big-brained elitists. But as they say, hope is the first step towards disappointment. What does the science actually say about these substances? In today's unsponsored video, we'll learn what are nootropics, do they work, and are they safe? First, what are nootropics? There are a lot of terms similar to nootropics, and our nation's top academics argue about the best definition. But I find these arguments shallow and pedantic. Cornello e Giorgia was the first person to define the term nootropics, which in Greek means mind toward. And in his paper he describes piracetam as the first synthetic nootropic, which is now sold as a prescription medicine in several countries. He discovered that rats that were drowned had better memory if they had taken piracetam. He came up with a strict definition for what a nootropic is, but I like the definition that it improves some combination of memory, attention, thinking, speech, and self-actualization. At the same time, people who eat healthy tend to have less dementia. Does this mean that broccoli is a nootropic? It's a legitimate question. It's estimated that there are thousands of nootropics, but most were never released to the public due to issues with safety or side effects. Realistically, there are probably only a couple hundred nootropics that are regularly talked about. Which brings up the question, do nootropics work? Some people say that nootropics are not interesting because intelligence is highly predicted by DNA, and nootropics cannot modify DNA. I have two statements. Number one, do you drink coffee? Humans have been taking nootropics like caffeine for thousands of years, and some historians think it was partially responsible for a profound intellectual movement known as the Enlightenment. Apparently, leaving the bar and going to the coffee shop caused society to reform, and it was even said that coffee caused a great sobriety among the nations. For the sake of science, I have performed this alcohol experiment many times, and in order to ensure reproducibility, I will keep performing this experiment and report back on my findings. But so far, alcohol seems not to have been great for my intelligence. Based on a 2020 Nootropics survey, for nootropics with at least 100 self-ratings, caffeine made it to number 2 on the list. This means that when asked if caffeine worked or not, 64% of the respondents said yes. The fact that coffee revenues are over $450 billion a year suggests that nootropics work. The second point is that I can maximize my phenotype. Well, the genotype of an organism is its complete set of genetic material. The genotype interacts with the environment to create the phenotype, which is the observed set of characteristics of an organism. For example, my genes might make me athletic, but I can alter the phenotype of how muscular I am by going to the gym and lifting weights and eating protein. This is why some people say that cognitive enhancers are like Viagra for the brain. They're there to enhance your existing equipment. And just like with Viagra, your existing equipment works better with proper sleep, diet, and exercise. I'm often asked, what is the best nootropic? It's difficult for a nootropic to outperform proper sleep, diet, and exercise. And because of our genetic differences, it's impossible to predict how someone will react to an exogenous substance. This means that humans will typically experiment with a combination of pharmacological and non-pharmacological methods to maximize output. But are nootropics even safe? So, you've perfected your sleep, diet, and exercise, but you want something a little extra so you can crush it at your job as a Wendy's fry cook. And your Zoomer coworker told you he got some illegal Chinese peptides off the dark web. He told you the stuff's so good it will give you an extra chromosome and make you astral project inside a monkey. Before you do anything, you need to understand that nootropics can be as powerful as any pharmacological medicine. and you should seek medical consultation before you take anything recommended to you online or by your friends. I am constantly shocked by the types of things humans will willingly put inside of their body. In fact, the government will not allow us to feed the standard American diet to animals because we care about animals and their well-being. When you start taking a nootropic, you should give yourself some time to ensure it's not causing a negative side effect for you. I typically give myself 6 weeks for this to occur, and then I make adjustments as needed. Remember, in biology, exception is the rule, and just because something worked for 90% of the population doesn't mean it will be safe and effective for you. The second concern people have is with quality assurance and quality control. Most of our supplements and nootropics come from Asia. The reality is that it's too difficult to compete with a bunch of underemployed Asian chemists with no labor laws. When raw ingredients are imported from China, they typically come with a certificate of analysis or COA to show that they're pure. These COAs are useful as toilet paper. Once these ingredients enter Western countries, they need to be analyzed properly. All good retailers should have a lot number associated with a particular certificate of analysis. And if you ask the retailer for the certificate of analysis, they should be able to provide you one. Theoretically, single ingredients like magnesium and potassium should be pretty easy to test. I'm not going to get into the chemistry of why this is, but if your company cannot ensure the purity of magnesium, you should probably just go to jail or something. On the other hand, for powders and extracts like turmeric and curcumin, I would only purchase them from trusted sources, because it's extremely common for them to have heavy metals. I wish that everything I ate was properly tested so that I could be sure that it was safe to consume. So, what have we learned? Humans have been using nootropics since forever. Proper sleep, diet, and exercise are the ultimate nootropic. The positive and negative effects of nootropics depend on a complex interplay of genetics and the environment. And quality vendors will always be transparent with their chemical analysis. Have any topics you'd like me to cover in the future? Let me know in the comments. And remember to like and subscribe to support me.